Hello, this is Gene. It's Friday after the DNC shut down last night. Thank God that that's all gone. The RNC is done. We're just heading toward the actual election. And as somebody that's still undecided in the red state of Alabama, my vote probably doesn't really matter anything other than maybe the local and state offices. It doesn't really matter about the national average or the national election. As much as Alabama has changed, and it's still, even though it's probably 40% black, especially here in Huntsville, and they'll probably vote 90% for Kamala, and she might actually carry Madison County. Trump's going to win, and he's going to win probably by 5 to 10 points here. I have issues with Trump, but again, just listening to what she says, she's basically projecting what their party has done. They basically just pushed out Bobby Kennedy, who's been a Democrat his entire life. He can't get on ballots anywhere. He's been sued by the DNC. And he's talking about today that he might endorse Trump. I don't know he'll do that. But I definitely think he needs to go on record, and he has, about how the DNC, the Democratic Party, is not Democratic at all. They elected this person, never got any votes. Now, people like to say she was the vice president in 2020. That's correct. And yes, she was on the ballot. People just forget what the difference between that is doing your primary voting. She got none in 2020, and she got none this time until they gave it to her. And this whole thing about her and saying she's going to do all this stuff, she's going to make everything better on day one, when she's been there. And I live in this world where I think that 95, 94% of the people have common sense. And then you have the people on both sides, 3%, that are just so enamored by their party, and they will never open up their mind in any other way. And of those, probably 1% of the 3%, of those the ones who are on Twitter and TikTok and on social media, just saying their point for their side, and almost uniformly they lie, they project, they exaggerate. So it makes it very difficult for anybody to make his mind. Now, I have enough time because I don't work anymore, so I can look at each individual issues and say what I actually want. But I can also narrow it down to very general ideas. I want limited government. The government doesn't usually do a good job when they're dealing with social issues. They can be pretty good when it comes to trying to get to the space or having highways and stuff. They don't do it very well, but they do enough. But when it comes to healthcare, running the Department of Education, those areas they're not very good at. I don't think they're very good when it comes to environment either. But I think you have to have a watchdog when it comes to the environment and the water and everything like that. And I don't necessarily think it has to be the government that does that, but I guess because we're a nation that we should have that. So I would have no issue with either side, and it will never happen on the Democratic side. I would have no issue with any candidate that would come in and just got rid of the Department of Education and some of the other issues, the Federal Reserve, all that stuff should be gone. Where it looks like pretty easily to me, and I'm a classical liberal, voted for Clinton twice, Obama twice, Trump twice. As a classical liberal, I would think that the party of big government is the Democrats. But they're both so beholden to Israel. It's almost nauseating at this point. I mean, Trump continually puts out every other tweet is about Israel, and that he's saying that Kamala is not as pro-Israel as he is. And I'm like, when he was in office, I thought he put Putin in check, he put Kim in check. But the thing about Netanyahu is we all know who's running this fucking country, and it's not Trump, it's not Kamala, it's this cabal of people. Most of them happen to be Jews. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. And they'll do everything that Netanyahu wants to do. And I don't like it. I don't like the fact that the first thing he talks about at every rally is about them. When they've had their 9/11 where 1,400 people were slaughtered by these Hamas people. We have that every day in this country when it comes to um, drug deaths. I mean, if he's going to be America first, he needs to be America first. He can definitely have it on his platform that he's going to support Israel, but both sides have this. It's not like the Democrats are not going to give Israel money. They already have. You have the president has been there, and he's still giving them money. He might say, well, you need to do this, but still, they run it. If they want more money, they get it. They get more weapons, we give it to them. It's like, and when it comes to those policy positions, it is a uniparty. It really is when it comes to Israel. Again, this guy goes in front of Congress, even though a lot of people are saying that Israel is committing genocide in Palestine, they all stand up for him on both sides of the aisle. A couple people left, right? The squad knows people, they left. Good for them. But when it comes to Israel, it doesn't matter to him who's in charge, because he can run over the Democrats regardless, because they have very low IQ people that are in charge. And then Trump apparently loves it because his daughter married a Jew. I don't understand the issue of it. And I guess he's built a lot of shit in New York City, and I know he knows a lot of Jewish people, and he thinks that maybe that they are deserving of what they get. But these are American Jews. Let's worry about the United States, okay? And that's the problem I have with Trump right now. And that's why guys like Nick Fuentes and Vincent James is like, he's got to get back his 2016 vibe and say, we're going to do something for the white working class man. We're going to do things for him. That's how he won in 2016. And he's not going to win now by just pandering to them, the 2% of the population, which are Jews, because they're still going to vote probably 60-40 for the Democrat. And then when it comes to blacks, they're still going to vote 90% for Kamala. It's just going to happen. And I don't know why this is. And again, I think it's a misinformation type of tactic that's going on, especially in the black community. You would think they would wake up. But again, the only people that actually vote in the black community happen to be single mothers. And they'll do it 90% for one side, because they think they'll make sure get the money they get from the government. And another place in the government they shouldn't be. So as a Undecided, and I'm getting some blowback from people that I know that are more conservative than me, saying, "How can you believe you're going to vote for Kamala?" And I'm like, no, I'm not voting for that communist. But Trump still has to earn my vote, and right now he's not doing it. I mean, it was great that he stood up after that bullet went by his ear, and he said, "Fight, fight, fight." Yeah, that's what I want from my president. I don't like the image of him the last couple days where he's behind a plastic screen. I don't like that. Definitely go out and get better people and make sure that if you're going to do things outside, to be able to do things out like that. Now, if you're worried about it, or the Secret Service, you don't trust them, then have things inside. I don't like that. The fact that he's basically, I don't say he's compromised. I'm sure the Secret Service says he has to do this. But the thing that there's so many issues here. The Democrats at their convention has just projected all the shit they've done to everything else, as far as looking at their opponent and using the full force of the government against them. And he's saying that Trump will do that when he comes in. He was there for 4 years, and he clearly could have went after Hillary, didn't do it. But he was a target from 2015 on. But he's saying that Trump's going to do it. The projection that come from the left is just astonishing at this point. They're talking about on day one, I'm going to do this to get housing down, groceries down, gas down. She's been there for the last 3.5 years. But what is she doing with that? Or are you going to say now as vice president, you have no power? Okay, fair enough. Then you're not good enough to be running for president. If you didn't do anything in that administration, if you're going to take all the stuff that they've done, you claim this inflation's come down, which is absolutely bullshit. It's just not where it was. It's 30% of where it was when you came, while you're in office, and now it's only 3 or 4%, but it's still above that 30% already. It doesn't like those prices came back down to where it was before all this inflation happened, and a lot of this happened to do with the pandemic, and of course, giving out millions of thousands and billions of dollars to our citizens to help them get through. They gave us money. We didn't need it, but we used it. So that's just more inflation. And then you're giving billions and billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine and billions and billions and billions of dollars to Israel. And we're never going to get that shit back. We're just not going to. And then when we find out there are things that are being gone, we can't find trillions of dollars here. We can't. Now, that could be on both sides of the administration. Like I said, the government is not very efficient. So my mind, when I looks at it from a general side, is that I want a limited government. There should be no way that somebody gets to Congress and after 4 years or 6 years or whatever, now is worth $100 million. How the fact that the fuck that this happens to several of these congressmen and senators, when they walk in, they're basically saying, well, I got a lot of debt from going to school and I'm worth probably about $5,000. And then when they get out in 6 years, they're worth $100 million. What is going on there? Are they taking all their canned money, put it somewhere, and then they now draw from it? And the other things is, I really, really believe this. Now, again, I know a lot of the normal voter is not very smart when it comes to actual topics. They glean onto 2 or 3 things that mean something to them, and that's who they vote for. A lot of single women about abortion, paying off their debt because women, you don't want any accountability in this modern world. So these are the 2 biggest things that you have no accountabilities for. You basically want the government to come in and just give you an abortion if you want it. And then if you end up having a baby, you'll be a single mother, and you want the government to come in and pay for you to do that. Or if that doesn't work, and you go to college and you don't want to pay your loans back because you went to a degree path that's not a very good in the economy that we're in right now. But probably about 50% of the people that go to college get a degree. Only 50% of them actually use their degree where their job is. It is one of the biggest scams there is. And a lot of these happen to be young, white women that vote these people in because they think they'll pay for them. I don't know where they get this from. Maybe it's from their fathers that just gave them everything, and they don't understand the idea of accountability for what they do. It's something you have to do very, very early for a young woman when you're raising them, to realize that if they want to be out to be competitive with men, that you have to be accountable for your actions, regardless that we know that a lot of men are going to come on and simp for you, and the whole government thing is basically, if anything happens to you, we're going to save you because you're the ones who are going to have babies. That's all great, but a lot of them sit there and say, no, I can't deal with the fact that I have to pay this off, and so they'll vote for a Democrat. So they're 1 or 2 position voters. And in a lot of ways, you can say that between the Republicans and the Democrats, there's only 3 or 4 policy differences between the 2. They don't really care about the border unless the border ends up getting in their house. And then they might be carried for about a minute and a half. So then you got the other side. And the Republicans just don't know how to advertise themselves at all. They probably have better plans in a lot of ways, but they're also a very big government organization as well. So it's a huge amount of money these people make from this. It's going to be billions of dollars for this election, and of course, everybody gets part of that pie. And how these people make so much fucking money, and that if they don't end up winning their election, they become a lobbyist somewhere, and they stay in Washington D.C. and they make so much money from this shit. So this whole thing about should I trust the electric when it comes to that, because I think a lot of us are stupid because we don't really look at the issues. When you actually ask these people these questions, they become a lot more conservative than they actually think they are. But anyway, so I'm just going to say overall, I think there's 3% on both sides that are very, very boisterous. These are the people that are always saying shit online. But the ones that are really, really, really boisterous are probably 1% of that. So in a neighborhood about 300,000, let's say, on both sides, they shit on line, and they're the ones that go to the DNC. They're the ones that are just knocking on the doors, and they're just full in to their party. They're just They're just so in love with it. No matter what they do, I'm just going to do it. I don't. If Tim Watts can sit there and say he was commander of the Martian Air Force, they're going to believe him. And it's on both sides when it comes to Trump. There are a lot of people, some parts of the MAGA movement is so cultish for Trump that they won't call out his failings when it comes to certain things. We have some experience with him as president. I think he failed at the border. Obviously, did better than Biden did, but I would have done a lot more. I would have made them take me to court. I would have shut down the southern border. I would have put the military on the southern border. I would have created a federal agency. Now I say limited government, but in this area, I would have created a federal agency to defend the southern border. I would have recruited the best that I could, people that are not going to college, young men mostly, back in wherever, some other place away from the border, the ones that are running the drones and stuff on the border, they could be women. But I would look for somebody with their fit and they have this idea, they want to do this, and I would pay them a good amount of money, and I would shut down that fucking border, and that would have done a whole things for a lot of the fentanyl and all that shit would have stopped, and a lot of people would be alive right now. And I think that I definitely would have won to next year. And you're talking about those are good paying jobs, and it was a lot better right now. We would not be going through the economic issues that we're having right now, regardless of the pandemic. But the other issues, we'd have men that did have a college degree that are getting good money on the border. Those areas would actually grow up on the border, and we'd have a lot more people down there. I don't care if they're black, Hispanic, Asian, white, it doesn't matter. There would be a loyalty test. They have to understand that this is about defending the United States. They have to understand what it means to be that. And he didn't do something like that. And these are things I would have done. And I don't think that would, if he goes there and all of a sudden the court says you can't do that and you can't build the wall with CE from the Army, you would continually go and fall on that fucking sword if you actually believe that this is what's the biggest thing in the world is. To stop them coming across the border, to change the demographics for this country, to just siphon off the wealth of this country, to fundamentally change what this country is supposed to be. And it doesn't have to be being white, but the idea that English will be our number one language, that we come from a certain type of culture, that type of thing still should be perfected. And he talked about this in 2016. He doesn't talk about it now. He talks about Israel way too fucking much. He doesn't talk about the white middle-class worker in the Rust Belt anymore. He just thinks he's going to get those votes. He might, because Kamala is she's a fucking loser. She's failed up her entire life. She was a model. She went to a black college, okay, and became a prosecutor and put a lot of people like her, apparently, since she's black, in prison. And then she's just been a failure as a politician. But apparently because she gets all this, the question is, how could she not have known that that Biden was having issues? She's been there for 3.5 years. She called this man 4 years ago a racist. And they still, this is how politicians and politics itself it's so fraught with unbelievable bullshit. You can call somebody a racist, and the next time he's going to take you as your running mate. This is the emasculation of the white man. This man did this, 10 years ago. He said, eventually, people like me with blue eyes from European heritage will be a minority in this country. And that'll be a good thing, because diversity is our strength. Look, as I said before, 3%, 1%. Most people are common sense. When I walk around this community that I'm in, and it's probably 60-40, maybe 50-50. We have Asians, blacks, whites. I think that's it. I think we have Indians. So I consider those Asians, so whatever. Everything we talk about is pretty much the same. The border needs to be shut down. Economy needs to get better. Stuff like that. It's rarely when it comes around with trans rights or anything like this. It's like everything's changed since I've grown up. And I think I was taught correctly. I was told this stuff, and my son talks about this shit and how he doesn't believe in this. You know, when you fall down, you got to stand up from the bootstraps and stand up and fight forward. What happened right now is that we changed it around, that it's better to be a victim, especially in early in your life, and it just continues for your entire life, and you just continually change what victim you are. First, I'm a girl, and I'm gonna be a victim for this. Oh, no, I'm trans. I got to be this. No, I'm going to be this. I'm going to be this. They continually change it to get some sort of status from it, because we all know, everybody went to high school, that it could be very, very difficult for certain people that haven't, let's say, matured enough. I was bullied like shit. I was a small dude, glasses, braces, a little bit overweight. I was beat up all the fucking time. And then all of a sudden, over one summer, I became from 5 foot to 5'10", kind of got the weight off, started looking somewhat a little bit better. And all of a sudden, these guys that were fucking with me didn't fuck with me anymore. And my confidence changed and all that stuff. I went to the military, all that stuff, right? Now you can just be a victim all the fucking time, no matter what quote unquote privilege you have. It's just so much. A lot of people from the privileged areas are the kids that have trans kids. And I'm like, what is considered common sense? Almost everybody knows that people go through phases in life. And I know people get upset about this because, oh no, she's just going through that thing. She's not really gay. Or he's not really gay, or she's not a lesbian, or something like that. And then we don't understand what they're going through. Still, most of those people that go through that, with their tomboys and stuff, end up being heterosexual people. Now, the issue we have right now is that for 100 years, as we can actually record this, going from being gay to being trans and stuff, this was a very, very small minority of people. But now when you ask these kids now, a lot of them already say they're 20, 30%, they say they're gay. Now, is there something in the environment, culture that's doing this? Whatever. Obviously there's something that we're eating shit that's different, right? We have guys that are in their 30 that don't have the same testosterone that I have. Too much plastics in their diet, too much silicone, estrogen in their diet, and they're more like women now. And I see that everywhere. I see men that just have their legs, they look skinny fat, right? They might be somewhat thin, but their arms are shit. They got little shit around their midrest, and that they're skinny fat. And they don't look like men, okay? It's like the testosterone has just left them. And I think that obviously that's that, but also there's a cultural side. If you're continually saying that men are this and that and that, especially white men, then it can cause some sort of changes in the brain, and this shit might happen as well. Meanwhile, women have become more masculinized, or masculine, and we have a lot of them that want to be men that are women that want to be men, and men want to be girls. All right. This was a very, 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 very small thing now, but now it's come bigger and bigger and bigger. And both sides talks about this. And I'm just like, just take a 30,000 view of this thing and say, which side is more common sense? Let the person go through their puberty and see what actually happens. And if they're 17, 18 years old, and it's clear that they are still gay or whatever, then, we can try to support them as much as we can. But they still should be talked to of a unbiased professional, right? Or the other side is like, no, we're going to give them shit before they go through puberty. And we don't really care that we tell the parents whether or not they are trans or not. If they walk into my office as a counselor in school and say, I want to say this and that, I want to change my pronouns, we're not going to tell their parents at all. But again, the parents are the ones who are going to end up paying for any of this stuff to happen. And like people on the right probably says that people that do shit like that do their kids, that's child abuse. I mean, it's one of those weird things that this is almost like Munchausen proxy when you looked at what they're doing to their kids. And 20 years ago, 15 years ago, probably 5 years ago, we would have said that's what that is. There's a disease in the parent's brain that doesn't understand what to do with this stuff like that. And all of a sudden they get some sort of thrill of their kids being a little bit different than everybody else, and they want to support this. It's disgusting in a lot of ways, and you should never allow an 8-year-old person to say, this is what I want to do, especially changing the body that I have. It's just, and we're here. And again, if it was just 1%, or I mean, 0.001%, it should be, it shouldn't be at the top of any type of political thing. But we see the trends that it's just changing all the time. So it has to be something more, right? Than, oh, they were born that way. It's something that allows them to have some sort of fame because they're just dying for likes. They have to have that dopamine fix that they get from social media. And both sides don't do anything about this. They talk about it, get rid of TikTok. It's still here. But that's not the problem. The problem is there's no fathers in the home. The family unit has been destroyed. And there's only really one side that talks about it, but they don't talk about it enough. And Trump does not talk about it enough. So when my friends, my conservative friends, who for years knew that I was a Democrat, and I gave them very good reasons why I was, and of course my party's left me. I'm no longer that. I'm not a Kamala Democrat. I'm more a Clinton Democrat, and obviously he would never agree with any of this shit. So Trump and the Democrats haven't given me anything to actually latch onto. If I absolutely believe that Trump would go down and shut down the border, if he made it mandated, you can never have this type of surgery before the law of, I can't see the word is, 16, 18, that you can do shit like that to yourself, then of course you should have to notify the parents of the kids when they're minors in school that they're having these type of issues. These things, this would be something that people like me would say, yeah, I can support that. But he has to understand the thing. If he wants to, actually in 2016, I wasn't sure he really wanted to win. At the end, I thought this was just a thing for him, for his PR and stuff like that. But he made enough sense to a lot of people like me that he's gonna be there for us. He's pretty much pushed us all behind again, and he's pandering to these other subgroups. And the thing is, it's still 2024, or 60% of the population, people that look like me. We're the biggest voting bloc there is. I'm not saying pander to us, but understand what the issues that we have are. We want a firm defense when it comes to the homeland. And what I mean by that is shut the fucking border down. You got to do something about the people here illegally. I think I would be probably less than him, but I would say they can stay to the point that they do something. And if they're picked up for anything, they're gone. I don't care what it is. Now, I'm not saying to go into Hispanic neighborhoods and wait for them to walk across the street and say you jaywalked and now you're gone. I'm just saying if they're down somewhere and they do something, that's anti-against whatever, then sorry, you're gone. Somebody has to be firm about shit like this, or we already are this laughing stock in the world. We're going to be Brazil, we're going to be all these other countries, and we're not going to be whatever the United States really is. We will just end up killing ourselves from the inside. Maybe that's always been the plan. I mean, you go down that rabbit hole and you think that the plan has been there. Divide us enough, and the people will just sit there and take all the money from all of us, and they'll sit up in their Hy-Vee towers and just control us as much as they've already been. It doesn't matter what side you're on at this point. It doesn't matter. It's the same fucking people. You go down the rabbit hole and you can find who those people are. Candace is talking about it. She's not 100% right. Nick's talk about this. She's not 100% right. But it's basically the same cabal of people. And now I think, was it one of those guys said last night, the other day, they're sitting there talking about going against the fat cats in the Democratic Party. They are the biggest fat cats there are. They all are. They become all that because as soon as they leave public office, they're worth millions and millions of dollars. And they become the same thing that they rail against. It's like AOC, she's worth probably $20, $30 million now. How? Why? Who? Somebody, I mean, what is she, like a brand now? I don't know. Anyway, as somebody who's undecided in North Alabama, probably will not vote at this point. Trump is going to have to do something, maybe in the debate or something. I think he's still going to win. I think eventually people will look at what Kamala really is, where she's from, what the Democratic Party is, this idea of abortion is that Trump is going to make it a mandate. You can't have abortion. I mean, they lie with no, there's no, the issue is somebody that who looks on the outside looking in. Like I said, I've been Democrat. When reporters are sitting there talking to a Democrat, they allow them to say pretty much say everything. And all of it could be bullshit, right? And very rarely do they check them on anything. Every now and then, take some of the people on CNN do sometime. But when a Republican operative comes in there, they stop him every time, say no, 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 no. And maybe sometimes that's warranted, but they don't do it when the Democrat says it. So when they sit there and say Trump is going to ban abortion, he never said that. In fact, he's been someone who's been compromising here. So I think he believes the 14 or 15 week thing. He is for exception when it comes to incest and rape. This has been his platform forever. He was pro-choice well before. I mean, again, he's not really a Democrat. He's not really a Republican. And they'll say other shit that he's the one who's going to take the FBI and the DOJ against his opponents. Well, he's been facing that for the last 8 years. And people sit there and just lap this shit up like it's true. I'm not, it's like, or he says bloodbath, and they say that he's talking about the car industry, or he talks about who's good on, there were good people on both sides, and he's talking about white nationalism. And if you look at the entire thing, he devours them. And it's like, and people just lapped it up. And again, I still think it's the 1% that really lapped this up. I think a lot of people don't give a shit because they don't like Trump, whatever the reason why. I didn't really like him per se, and I wasn't going to vote for him. And then I just started listening to what he had to say, and then I looked at his background, and then I voted for him. I didn't have this whatever this is, this disease that you get just to hate him so much. I'm like, why? He is the quintessential American story. Anyway, again, he doesn't have my vote yet, and I think that he can get it, but he's not going to, at this time, he's not going to force me out of my bed to go down to the voting booth and vote for him, because he's got to go back to what he was in 2016. I don't give a shit about Israel. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about the Ukraine. I don't. I worry about my own people. And that's why he needs to get back to that. And that means he needs to somewhat remember who got him there in 2016. It was people like me. You guys have a good day, and we'll talk to you later.